الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا وبعث فيهم رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياتك ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة ويزكيهم إنك أنت العزيز الحكيم صدق الله العظيم. Ayat number 129 of Surat al-Baqarah, pertaining to the dua of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam and Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. In their dua they requested Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send from their progeny the Ummah al-Muslimah, to make their progeny that Ummah that will submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they requested that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent in that Ummah the Rasulam minhum, the greatest messenger amongst them, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Yatlu alayhim ayatik, who recite to them your ayat, recite to them the kalamullah. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ, and who teach them al-kitab, the book, meaning Quran and the tafseer of the Quran. Al-hikmah, and will teach them the wisdom, which is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ, and through this Quran and sunnah, He will purify them. The tazkiyatun nafs, and we have gone into the details of this particular term, وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ, and He will purify them. The various levels of purity of tazkiyah. We got to the psychological form of human beings, psychological aspect of us insan as human beings. That as human beings we have various thoughts. What is amazing about these thoughts is that there are different levels in these thoughts. Some are innocent thoughts that we are not aware of. They are deep within the subconscious. Such thoughts we barely pay attention to. Generally, they stem from our senses. We are able to see color and depth, hear sounds, and smell certain types of scents. And all the other various faculties of senses that we have. And these various senses that we have, these also register within our thoughts. We may be aware of them or we may not be aware of them, but they have a profound impact on our lives. There's another type of thought that we human beings have, where we formulate conscious thought. And this conscious thought that we formulate, it has different levels. There are some conscious thought which have very little impact on us. Sometimes they're almost innocent thoughts. We think of them and they move and they go. Other thoughts register very deeply. The first type, those thoughts that come and go, they don't really have any standing in our lives. They're just there. Many of these kind of thoughts are known as the waswasa, part of the waswasa, where we think of things that don't really mean anything. Sometimes we call them dreams, daydreams. We sit down and we start dreaming. It's amazing how far we can go with our dreams. As insan, as human beings, we may be very limited in our abilities, limited in our resources. But in our minds and in our thoughts, we are kings. And we can rule the world, and we can stop armies and conquer the world in our minds, in our imagination. Most of these imaginations, they're nothing more than just thoughts that pass and they go. They have very little impact. Many times we don't even control them. Many of these thoughts, we don't even control them. And generally, especially during the salah, when we're praying salah, mashallah, we can think of the whole world and solve complicated, complex problems and figure out the solutions to the most difficult problems in the world. And then solving all of those problems, so amazing is we can't even figure out what rak'ah of salah we're on. So this is us human beings. When we start to imagine and we start to think, we can go so far, but we miss what's right in front of us. So these types of khiyalat, these types of thoughts, these imagination, this waswasa, these come and they go. We're not generally even held responsible for these kind of thoughts. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not burden a soul more than it can handle. And I'll come back to the tafsir of this ayah of Surat al-Baqarah when we get into the second type of thoughts. There's a second type of thought that registers very deeply. And these are thoughts that, though they register very deeply, many a times they have a profound impact on our lives. And they occupy a profound amount of our time. A large portion of our time and energy is spent on these kind of thoughts. These thoughts, they also formulate our beliefs. And as a human being, as insan, if we're not careful, they can take us very, very far, and they can either damage us immensely or they can build us profoundly. That is the power that these type of thoughts have. And these thoughts, in the medical field, they refer to them as thoughts that go into the subconscious mind. They're even more deeper than that. As human beings, as believers, we have been told that these are the thoughts inside the qalb. And I will come back to these. There are two areas where thoughts generally stand. Those thoughts that stay in the sadr. Sadr means chest. And I'll explain that much more in detail. Those thoughts that stay in the sadr, they come and they go. They're nothing more than an echo. But there are other thoughts that go inside the qalb. They go inside the heart. They can have a profound impact on a person. These are the two types of what we need to understand, what we've been taught in this beautiful deen of Islam. In science, they tell us conscious thought and subconscious thought, and then there's this whole discussion about what is conscious and subconscious, and how to take something from the conscious mind to put in the subconscious mind, and all of these are just nothing more than theories. Come to the deen of Islam, you have sadr, you have qalb, you have a chest, you have a heart. Around the heart, there's a chest. In that chest, there are so many thoughts that go around. And inside the qalb, when something goes into the qalb, now you have a problem. It can either be good for you or it can be problematic. They're innocent thoughts until they get inside the heart. I also want to explain these concepts from a much more deeper level in Arabic. Because when we say sadr and qalb, when I say chest and heart, I'm not referring to your physical body, not this physical chest and not this physical heart that is beating faster than a second and so many beats in a minute, 70 or 80 beats a minute, not this heart. This is also a heart, but this is of the jism. This is the heart of the jism of the physical body. This is the sadr, the chest of the physical body, the jism. All these organs you see, these are jism. In the spiritual world, you also have similar, these organs also leave an imprint on the spiritual world. They have a much more profound meaning. These thoughts that affect us, I'm going to give you an example so you will understand the difference between a thought that flies around in the chest and a thought that goes inside the heart. You have that thought that someone comes to you and tells you you are an amazing person and you can achieve great things, and then they give you this whole plan of how you can become a very successful person. And what is amazing is the human mind, it starts working. The brain, it starts formulating ideas, imagination starts. And this imagination, it takes you on this beautiful route. So many different thoughts and dreams. But this is nothing more than an echo. It can have a meaning, it can affect, it can change our lives, or we can just be like those people. You just think about it and you forget about it. It doesn't really affect you that much because it's nothing more than a dream. In the end, you are either the leader of the world or the wealthiest human being that ever existed or the strongest person to ever walk the face of the earth. So many ideas come in the human imagination. And it's nothing more than just an imagination, a fallacy of the dream or daydream. And there's another type of thought. When you talk about the qalb, you talk about what goes inside the heart. It doesn't take much for that to trigger everything. Take the example of fear. Fear starts inside the heart. And I'm talking about the terrified fear. You know, you're all alone in a dark room, place you've never been. You end up having to go somewhere at night, and it's a route you've never been on. And you're going on that route, and there's somebody on the side of the road just asking to be picked up. They have their finger out. But because it's a route you're not familiar with, you're already in a state of being alert. You see someone on the side of the road and your mind tells you, oh, this is a ghost or this is a jinn, mashallah. You press that accelerator like you've never pressed it before. Huh? That fear triggers something else. It triggers a response. That is inside the heart. Sometimes we're put in a state of sudden shock, and that can really freeze a person. The adrenaline kicks in, it triggers the body. That is something from the heart. It triggers the human body. And even they have a name for a fight or flight response, the adrenaline rush. So these kind of effects that it has on even the physical body, it's amazing. And that is just one example of something that comes from the heart. There are other examples. Sometimes we may have not seen a family member, especially a direct relative. Parents have not seen their child, or the child has not seen the parents for a long time. The child has gone for study and very good terms with the parents. That mahabbah and that love is there. That mutual understanding is there after so many months or years. The children see the parents. That moment, what is triggered, that joy, that happiness, that comes from the heart. It has a profound impact even on the physical body. Tears start, people cry, the cry of joy. So different types of effects, they also go to the heart. But what is amazing about the thoughts that affect the heart, there's not much dwelling on those thoughts. But they have a profound impact on our life. So these are different types of thoughts when we talk about thoughts. We talk about emotions. We talk about the effects. Now we speak about tazkiyah. So this was just the understanding of the various elements of insan. You have the physical body. You have the external body, the internal system of the jism, the physical body. You have the environment. And you also have human psychology, which is, again, the effect of all those emotions. Now comes to the system of purity, tazkiyah. The physical body, there are many things in Sharia that are already very clear. You don't need too much detail. What is beautiful about this deen of Islam is it has given things to us, made us very, very clear. We have the system of tahara, cleanliness. So the physical body is very simple to clean. You have the various states of janaba, of impurity, and then you have all of the rules of cleanliness and tahara. There's no need to go into those details. You can read about them in the books of fiqh. The internal system is very simple to understand. The physical body, the internal jism. Internal system, stick to halal foods, stick to good diets, stick to pure halal foods. Very easy to understand. You can read about the sunnah diets. You can read about those foods that are good for you. You can also find whatever is imbalanced within the system, internal system. And it can be fixed. Those that have diabetes or hypertension and whatever else, there are medications to balance out the body. That's a system that can be very easily understood. What is more complicated to understand is the environment. And then more complicated than the environment is the internal system, the psychology, the ruh. The environment that we live in, it has a profound impact on us. And if we are not careful, it can have a very, very strange effect on us. What is clear and understood and what is a fact is that people of various classes, various levels in human society, they tend to have a particular system where those in that class or in that group, in that environment, they always come out to have a particular effect. The easiest example I can give you is that the education system, especially once you get into the, after high school and you get into the college and university level. So every class, every group has its own goal in life. One of the major things that affects those who graduate is the system they were put in, mostly the environment they were in. It's not just the study of the books or not just the material, but the overall prevailing environment that they were in. That environment can be in the physical sense, can be in any sense, that so long as we have some type of interaction, it can have a profound impact. Someone who's taking engineering, so all those that are in that class will be doing the same thing. So that one mindset is then established. Those that will succeed and will graduate generally become engineers. The same applies to the medical school, law school, and so on and so forth. It's the environment that shapes the future of those who graduate. Yes, you will have those that may not graduate because they're not very serious. That's a different story. But in general, you will have that environment that is made. In every environment, there will be some, either one person or few people, that will have a more profound impact on everyone else. They have various names for that. When you start to study crowd psychology and you start to understand how groups work, so you always have someone who is the alpha in the group. Someone who, when they decide something, so everyone follows them. But that person who is considered that, or who has, it's a natural talent. It's not something that someone can just ask for or they get it. It's not something like that. In any group, it's automatically understood almost. It's just a natural, innate gift. Yes, they do have some courses where they teach people how to be leaders, but leadership is an innate nature. It's something that's within the person. You cannot learn it. You can learn some of the traits about it and try to become a leader. That's good, but it's an innate nature. There are particular qualities that leaders have that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them. But one of those qualities is they have a very profound impact on the rest of the group or anyone that is with them. So that is something that should be understood. How that person is, if they're righteous and they're good, so they will lead the whole group in a good direction. And if they're not a very good person, so they can mislead many. Also, they can have a profound impact in shaping the minds of those that follow them. There are some who have more impact than others. Again, that is the different levels of how those leaders have utilized that gift. And this is not something that someone picks up later on in life. From the very young age, even in the little children, it can be seen. There's always one alpha in the group. Be it a boy or a girl, a male or a female, it's irrelevant, but there's always one alpha. In any group, there's always one person leading that group. When they're playing games, there's only two questions the kids ask. Either the kids are asking, what team am I on? Or one kid or someone will say, who's on my team? That's how you'll gauge who is the leader and who may end up being the follower. That is kind of the gauge. Again, this is not written in stone. These are things that can later on change. But in general, that is the system of effect. Now, each one, the alpha, the leader of a group, and those that who are not the alpha, they have different systems of being affected. And that's where tazkiyah comes in. Because you cannot use one system for both an alpha and someone who is not, who doesn't have those leadership qualities, or who may not be a leader. Remember one thing, even those that are leaders, they need more tazkiyah, they need more system of purity and purification than their followers. This has to be understood. A leader must always be put in check. And generally for this, when it comes to the system of righteousness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always test those who are leaders more than the followers. A very easy example is the Anbiya alayhimus salam, the prophets and messengers. So they were tested much more than their followers. So this is the system, and the tazkiyah is very important because it's very easy. And the hikmah and reason behind that is because it's very easy for someone that has an alpha quality, that has those leadership qualities, it's very easy for them to become oppressors. They can fall into oppression very easily and very fast because they realize what kind of power they have and influence they have over others. And human nature is such that when you're not put in check, then that power can really corrupt a human being. And that is what happened to many of the oppressors in human history. They ended up making the slogan, who can stop us? Who's more powerful than us? Man ashaddu minna quwwa. Who's more powerful than us? Who can stop us? If there's no system of check and balance, so then that person in authority who has that leadership qualities, he can go down a very dark path. So for them, tazkiyah is very different. The kind of things that they have to do to keep themselves in check, it's very different than someone who's just a follower. For the leader, the system of tazkiyah for a leader is that they must always take upon themselves those tasks that are the most humbling in a society that no one else wants. Understand this very, very clearly. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you leadership, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the quality of being the head of your group, then your tazkiyah, your purity, for you to purify yourself and to check yourself, the system that we have been given in the deen of Islam is that you must always take those tasks and those particular work or that type of work and that type of task which is so humbling that no one else may even think of doing something like that. Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, it's famously written about him, the kind of khidmat and services he used to give to the people. And he used to do it very secretly. He used to do it very, very secretly. There are many, many incidents related about him. But they learn, and then again you have the incidents of Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu, Sayyidina Umar al-Faruq radiyallahu anhu. But they learned from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he would come home, he used to take care of the home chores. And that's a very difficult thing for someone who is in a position as leadership. Sometimes their ego gets in the way. They feel that, why should I help out around the house? But this is a sunnah. And this is very, very important for someone who's in a leadership position. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was a role model for all of us. So he showed all of us how to be, especially for those who are leaders. When you come home, take care of your home chores. Don't just dictate it to your family. Take care of it yourself. When it comes to cleaning, when it comes to taking care of, they used to have animals back then. You used to take care of that. You used to take care of the various home chores. He even told us that it is a sadaqah if you put a morsel of food even in the mouth of your wife. Many people who have that alpha mentality and who are given that leadership status, they can't imagine to even pour food for their wife. They'll tell their wives to fill their plate and to give them water. But these kind of ahadith, when you study the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, so there's a tazkiyah for us, or tazkiyah for those who are in that leadership position that serve your family. Because it's very humbling, especially for those in the leadership position. Very, very humbling. Pour food for them. If you have to cook and then serve them. Do service around the house. You'll be surprised how that breaks the ego of a person who's in that alpha position. That's what tazkiyah is. This is what Quran and Sunnah, when it purifies a person, it will remove from that person who has that egotistic system in them and who is a leader. To break that ego, there are particular tasks that are set out. And you have to do it willingly. It cannot be like somebody's forcing you. I'm giving this message also to, mashallah, our family, our sisters also. Don't go force your husband that you know. It's not something done by force. They have to be willing to change. If somebody's not willing to change, you can tell them to do 100 things and won't change. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Definitely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not change the condition of a nation unless they're ready to change themselves. So that change starts from one's own self. That yes, I need to change. I need to purify myself. So it starts with that. The service, serve people. Al-Khadim al-Makhdum. It's a famous saying that the one who serves people, he will be served. Get in the habit of serving people. Especially if you have, and inshallah we'll get into much more, especially if you're in a position of a leadership, so your tazkiyah is done differently. I know this is going to be a detailed discussion about tazkiyah, but these are different levels and different points that need to be understood. As tazkiyah, it applies to every group of people very differently. So we stop here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding and give all of us the tawfiq to practice His deen. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم نور قلوبنا بالقرآن وزين أخلاقنا بالقرآن ونجنا من النار بالقرآن وادخلنا في الجنة بالقرآن. اللهم اجعل القرآن لنا في الدنيا قرينا وفي القبر مونسا وعلى الصراط نورا وفي الجنة رفيقا ومن النار سترا وحجابا. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.